But somebody wants to walk out of the door in WWE, and that is Mustafa Ali. Posted on his social media, I think it was on Twitter. And anyway, he posted on all of them, but essentially his statement that he has a message that he wants to send, and he can't do that whilst working for WWE. That is pretty much the gist of the message. Now, before we kind of go into that, it's come to light, I think, at the moment that WWE has denied that request.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
I mean, why do it for... Why not let him go, but let Tony Storm go, who you could have made a star?
I think, though, we touched on that before, but I don't think that's really... that wasn't their call, because she just flew herself home.
Yeah, but
maybe the moral of the story is that you've got to be like Tony and just do whatever you want. Because when you're trying to be nice and professional, like Mustafa Ali's been, to the most part, because again, putting it on social media is always a bit of an interesting move. And it usually seems to be that it's that move that it kind of has a few different motives, because it's not only there to obviously give an update to the fans and obviously people that are behind Mustafa Ali, but it's also kind of I think a bit of a move to put pressure on WWE to make sure that they respond to him and probably hopefully give him the response that he wants, which at the moment doesn't seem to be the case. But we've seen that before in the past, say with the Revival, now FTR.
And Rusev.
Yeah.
I'm sure some big names have done it. But I can't remember who they are at the minute. I'm sure there's been loads more.
Well, there's some of the names, but I mean, Mustafa Ali, regardless, I mean, he's, one way or another, then he's not going to be staying at the company. Whether he has to ride out the rest of his contract or they eventually grant him his release, but
probably like Pac did.
Maybe, yeah. But then let's look at his career then so far for WWE. I mean, it's a weird one.
Because he could have been what Kofi was at Mania 35.
Yeah.
I believe that was the original plan, was Ali winning the title at Mania 35, but he got concussed before Elimination Chamber.
I don't know if he was meant to actually win the title, but there were similarities between the two, because at the Elimination Chamber...
He was meant to be in it, but he got concussed.
Oh no, I'm talking years ago. This is Kofi. Whatever the one was that Kofi was meant to be in, and he got injured, so they replaced him with Edge.
Oh, that was 2009?
9, yeah. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, before May 25.
And then what happened was, oddly enough, we come to this sort of situation now where Kofi got injured and Edge had to take his place there. And then, it looked like maybe it was going to be Ali here, and he got injured, and then Kofi finally got his again. And it is strange, isn't it? Like a weird full circle, but
because Kofi, this is about Kofi had a good performance on the Gauntlet match on SmackDown the week before, I believe it was.
That was it. A couple of weeks before.
Yeah, and then he had a really good performance at the Chamber match itself, and because the response was so good, they couldn't do anything else but give him that spot.
Yeah.
But Ali did come back to do a triple threat, like at Fastlane, whatever it was, the pay-per-view before Mania, and got booed. But was so good in that match. It's like, how can you boo this guy? And then obviously he was in the Battle Royal at Mania.
I think Ali is an interesting character, because he's come into the fold really from that Cruiserweight Classic tournament back in 2016, which, for all intents and purposes, is still probably one of my favourite WWE tournaments ever.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that Mustafa Ali wasn't a standout for me in that tournament.
No. It's funny how some of the people that weren't put through further ahead have had better careers.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of was, I don't want to say he was an afterthought, but he definitely wasn't one of the big players in that tournament. Like, coming off the back of that tournament, the names people were talking about was Ciampa and Gargano, opposite Ibushi, TJP, of course, because he won it, but then you look at TJP, the inaugural Cruiserweight champion for that, I guess for that era, but he won the tournament, got crowned champion, and no one talks about TJP anymore in WWE. And actually, really, he didn't have arguably the best run with it. And
It's only like 2 or 3 months.
2 or 3 months, and it wasn't really his fault. And again, once they all kind of got shoeboxed into the 205 Live thing, it was an uphill battle for everybody, isn't it? But Mustafa Ali came leaps and bounds. Like, out of everybody, he's probably had the biggest, with the exception of obviously Ciampa and Gargano, who were already in NXT.
Yeah.
Ali's had I would say probably the biggest kind of trajectory through WWE, like to the point where he could have been main eventing.
Yeah, I mean,
which in and of itself, kind of sounds like he broke the glass ceiling a little bit. But then you look at something like Retribution.
Oh, don't remind me.
Well, you said you liked it once, remember that?
I liked it when it began, and then they removed the mark.
I know. No, to be fair, I think a lot of people were interested when it began because it did seem different, but they just very quickly...
it went to shit.
Yeah, basically. But, that did nothing, really, for him, really. And then he was doing the stuff with, what's his name? On Raw. Mansoor.
Oh, Mansoor, yeah.
Yeah, that's not really done much for him either. It's just...
I mean, to be fair to the guy, he does, whenever he does the Saudi Arabia shows, he does donate his money to charities and people.
But that's the guy behind the scenes, though. Like, no one's calling that into question. I don't think the issue is him. I just think the issue is the cards he gets dealt, because WWE doesn't play on the fact that this guy could be a genuine babyface, like a genuine babyface.
Yeah.
And I wasn't necessarily annoyed that they turned him heel for the Retribution thing, but it didn't mean anything.
Especially when you've got no crowd in front of you.
Yeah, which is always going to be an uphill battle, isn't it? But I just think that Mustafa Ali is one of the people I think they've really dropped the ball with. And I know we always say that we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, and but he's not really one of those names that comes up that apparently he is difficult to work with. But I guess we don't know because we don't work there. But I do think what he says about having a message to send is really interesting, because he's been quite open about the fact that he wants to change those literally stereotypes that we were talking about at the beginning of the show with Walter. The idea that like there are stereotypes that I think for someone who looks like Mustafa Ali traditionally in wrestling usually gets booked as the heel.
Well, I believe he said in an interview, some indie show wanted to make him like a terrorist character.
I remember reading that a long time ago. I don't know if it was terrorist or if it was along that sort of line though, wasn't it? Like proper, just like no. And obviously, and thankfully, he turned it down because the guy actually has some, self-respect.
There's always that.
It was like the Muhammad Hassan situation. I mean, that ended his career.
It did.
Because of the London bombings, and obviously at the time he was working that angle with Taker for the Great American Bash 2005 payoff with him and Taker, I think was it just a
normal match?
Normal match, wasn't it? But he had that kind of thing at the time where all of these like masked men were around him, and it was, they never said the word terrorist, but it was so heavily implied, and it was just some of the imagery.
Yeah, he had a lawyer, but no one ever heard of him again.
That was Ciampa, wasn't it? Yeah. It was just weird. It really just, sometimes I think they go a bit too on the nose with stuff, and that was one of those times. And unfortunately, it was Muhammad Hassan that paid the price for it. And I really enjoyed Muhammad Hassan, but I would have liked to have seen what that character could have done as a face.
Yeah.
But the hardest part, the hardest thing looking back on it now, watching Muhammad Hassan's work now, the hardest part of watching him now is actually I can't work out a lot of it where I'm supposed to dislike him, because although they kind of play, it's a bit over the top with the promos and stuff, he's putting a lot of truth into the promos.
Yeah, but you have heard a lot of people like Michael Hayes and all those promo guys say if the bad guy has to believe he is right.
There's the heel has to believe he's right, and that the heel does have to have some truth to it, because if you're like, look at Daniel Bryan's heel turn with the eco-friendly Captain Planet thing.
Yeah. A
lot of what he was saying was bang on. Like, people do abuse the planet, and people should be doing more to obviously be more eco-friendly. And the thing is, it annoys people more because, like, you do know it's true. So and that's what makes you get more pissed off about it, because you're then getting angry. This guy that you don't like, you're even more angry with him because he makes such a valid point, and it's something that so it's great. It's that mentality behind it is good, but the way it was sort of done with Muhammad Hassan was different. Like, it was kind of like unanimous just hatred towards him, and then we get into the it's the USA chants and stuff, and again that's it's patriotism. I get it. It's not quite the same for us, obviously, because we're not from the US, but then you guys have come over here, and the UK crowd will get rowdy, and we've got our own. I mean, you go to a football game to find that out.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, people have that, but I just feel that they really, really just put him with an impossible task, Muhammad Hassan, and I'm glad that it didn't go down that route necessarily with Mustafa Ali, but I would love to see him go out and change it. I think he's already done a lot of it. I think he has delivered more of that message than maybe he thinks.
Oh yeah, like I said, with the charity work he's done for I know it's because of Saudi Arabia money, and obviously with where he's from is not.
It's there, yeah. There's controversy there, isn't there? But I mean, more his in-ring work and the character.
I'm a fan of his stuff.
I'm a fan of his work, but I think he has done more than he probably thinks he has. And I think he really should be proud, because he came, he did start up as a nobody. I say no, I don't want it to, you know what I mean? I'm not meaning it to sound like bad, but he was effectively a nobody in that Cruiserweight Classic. And he's become a name that, actually I think people will remember in WWE.
I remember his main roster debut, which was against Bryan. And I think he need him in the head. but it was like at a time when people that were in like the cruiserweight style matches weren't really competing with like the main roster guys. Yeah. If they did, it was like at a Rumble appearance or something stupid like that. Yeah, he did a good showing for himself, and they never got. I don't think the crowd really got into him the way they should. Like I said, when he was replaced Kofi in the triple threat match, it's like he got booed, but once the match was going on, people were cheering for him because he was such a good performer. I think
some of that though is because then when the crowd's hot on one particular person, you do naturally reject a lot of other stuff. So, case in point, Kofi for that one, but again, to use Daniel Bryan as an example there, when he was white hot with the Yes Movement, like, people just were not interested in anything else unless it was Daniel Bryan. So sometimes I think it is just about being like the right guy at the wrong time. I feel like that was probably the problem there for Mustafa Ali. But there's been points where he absolutely could have, been it in the meantime. But whether I'd like them, if that's what he wants, then it'd be good if they do grant him that release. But I can't really think of why they wouldn't at this point when they've already released so many others. But then the other side of that coin is they've released all of these people but kept Mustafa Ali. And I would like to think that they've kept him for a reason other than the fact that, I know, because like we said this last week, but having a diverse roster, you'd want them to, hopefully they've kept him because they actually want to do something with him. But I don't know. I feel like if they wanted to, they could have done it by now.
Yeah. Have you seen a video of him about a week or two ago doing a reverse sharpshooter? Or a no-look sharpshooter, I should say. Yeah. So how the fuck do you do that? You want to get rid of him? Well, he wants to.
Well,
I think he would be. I think if they do, he would be good in AEW. But I'd love to see him PWG first, or
anywhere, man. He'd be one of those that'd be good to like move around a bit, I think. And again, he's got a good style for New Japan. I could easily see him in New Japan Strong showing up there.
Yeah, even for like the junior heavyweight division. Yeah, really, him and Ospreay, bloody hell.
Oh my god.
Forget everyone else.
Book it.
Just him, Ospreay.
That could be the forbidden door. We could only wish. But no, hopefully he'll get what he wants there. But at the moment, it doesn't look too likely.
3 men. 1 ball. I did it.